Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Stand podcast. I'm Francois, your host here. I'm here with Roel today. Hey Roel, what's up, man?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
And and we have Kjetil. Hey Kjetil, how are you?
I'm good. I've just been on a trip with fourth grade in the woods. So
Oh, that
okay.
sounds exciting. Yeah,
yeah,
it sounds familiar to me.
yeah.
So we have Kjetil today on because we wanted to talk about Wi-Fi monitoring using tools like Grafana and like open source tools, and he has done some work with it. So we asked him to come on the show and talk about his experience and talk about different use cases. So we can have a chat with him. Both Roel and I think it's very interesting. We've always wanted to do it, never took the time. So we are very excited to talk to you, Kjetil, today. But before we start, do you want to introduce yourself? Maybe tell us, what you do, how you got started in Wi-Fi, how you met Roel and I, stuff like that.
Yeah, good start. My name is Kjetil Teigen Hansen, and I work for Conscia, a Cisco Gold partner. I work as a system engineer in the operations and also do a lot of consultant work, mainly wireless. Started with wireless in 2012 in customer service, and then I had a little bit of break in 2016 to 2018. And then on Conscia, I started back on working with wireless. And I think the first months I was at Conscia, I was asked to take the ECSC design course. And then the only place it was in Belgium. And there I met Francois there to take the course. And I've been, loving to get back to wireless ever since.
How did you like Belgium? Was it your first time in Belgium?
Yeah, it was the first time in Belgium.
Okay, so you also met Belgium at the same time you met me.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you didn't say it, but you're from Norway, right? You live in Norway?
Sorry, I'm from Norway.
Awesome.
Hopefully the name gave it away. Maybe.
Awesome. And so how did you get introduced to the whole like Wi-Fi monitoring, the Grafana dashboards? Like what was your first project? What was your first use case for digging into using these tools to help you do some Wi-Fi monitoring?
It actually first started with the embedded wireless controller, and that I found out that it didn't support SNMP, so I wanted to monitor it. And then I spent a lot of time finding out that it doesn't support streaming telemetry either. But during that period of time, I found Dave Benham's blog how to build monitoring on a 9800. And then I started with just building upon what he made. And then it started to build out by monitoring a bunch of areas, controllers, a lot of 9800s, monitoring the office when the Corona the lockdown to have some fun to see who is at the office, how long are they in the office, and when did they leave, just for fun. And so it's been like 2 years now, 2.5 years with Grafana monitoring.
So now you have like a full dashboard that you use to kind of monitor the controllers of your customers. Is that how you set up
for
now?
some of the customers, the little downside, for example, of some cloud tools, right, that you get the signal quality every 5 minutes or every 3 minutes. And with the warehouses, for example, they have like fast moving trucks driving around at 20 kilometers an hour. A lot of things happen in 5 minutes. So to get a stream of information every 2 seconds, every 3 seconds, to get signal strength, the MCS, what AP it was joined to, it gave me a lot more data to help troubleshoot these cases, because we usually get a lot of tickets that we had issues with the truck 5 minutes ago or yesterday at 12. Okay, what happened? And then I just wanted to have the constant information of data.
Okay, so you're talking about then comparing, what we're going to talk about is streaming telemetry data versus some cloud vendors. Like if you're using cloud managed Wi-Fi, it's not streaming telemetry data that you see. You're only getting that data every 5 minutes, like an SNMP poll.
Yeah, it depends. Right. I think, for example, Cisco DNS Center gets events whenever it happens, and it get RSSC like for every 3 minutes or so. But they get events every time it roams. You get an event, and they also have Meraki that is a bit slow on the RSSC side, but you usually get events when stuff happen. But usually, yeah, I don't get the constant signal quality.
Yeah. Okay.
So to see it dropped an MCS, we went from MCS 8 to an MCS 1, for example, and that happened during that time, and we missed that often.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. So what we're gonna talk about then is streaming telemetry data that you're doing with your dashboards.
Yeah, with the 9800 specifically. You can use SNMP also. We'll see that some things I need to use SNMP for, but mainly it's streaming telemetry.
Okay. And which protocol is it using to do the streaming telemetry? Is it netconf or is it openconfig?
Yeah, it's netconf, but it's also using for the streaming telemetry part a gRPC.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's the open source Google remote. I don't really remember. I need to Google what what the name was. I do remember it was gRPC.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to Google too, because one of the things I wanted to ask you was the components that are used to put this together before we actually dive in and look at your dashboards. Like, I know there's Grafana, but is there anything else to that besides Grafana?
Yes, of course. So when you receive a lot of information, you need something to collect all the information. So then you have a data collector. It's many different types, but I use Telegraph. And that is a data collector that you can, that is a one plugin, for example, for SNMP, a plugin for Open Weather Map, a plugin for AVS, and one for the streaming telemetry part for Cisco. And that is one component, the data collector. And then you need somewhere to store all the data. And then I use InfluxDB, time series database, to store all the information. And then Grafana to visualize the information. So it's 3 components you need here.
Awesome. And so where do you host it? Do you host it on your machine locally, or do you host it online so you can have access to it anywhere?
If you can use Grafana online and InfluxDB online, but then you don't have the streaming telemetry plugin. So before I used a Raspberry Pi, and now I use an Intel NUC.
Can you use a container?
Yes, before I didn't do it, but now I just use containers. I have like a Docker Compose file with 3 containers, and it just makes it easier to upgrade and downgrade and test different versions. So I use that instead.
Okay, that's cool. So you could potentially deploy that container to somewhere else.
Yes. So I don't have a VLAN P Pro, for example, but it's like just a text file. You just run it, start it, and then you have all the components you need. So I used it once on a Raspberry Pi, and I was testing to see I can take it with me on a little battery and connect it, and then test if I can use that to monitor if I do like an active survey to see the data from the other side, not just from the client side. And then that worked. Raspberry Pi 3. So you don't need big hardware to run this.
All right, so it's doable for many of us. You don't have.
Yeah, that's also depends. If you have 10,000 clients, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe for lab purposes, you want to get started either running Docker on your Mac, your Windows, or if you've got the Raspberry Pi, you can run it there. So yeah, there's different ways to start. It's not impossible. So I guess
I think it's thousands of different blogs about just search TIG. Thousands of different blogs. And you just need, the only component you need for streaming telemetry is just one plugin in one of the applications in Telegraph. And then it's thousands of different blogs out there.
Okay. Yeah, I was asking you because I'm thinking maybe, I don't know if you do it already, but maybe you could give access to that dashboard to your customers, you know?
Yeah, I think people have asked I had a presentation about how we can monitor an event in Oslo the other week, and last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago. And then I have gotten a few requests if I can help them build it for them. right, and recently I just made it to help me save time troubleshooting for tickets that I spend 3-4 a couple of hours just guessing, and or have exact information on what happened at that specific time.
Okay, cool.
So that
it sounds like you can start a business now.
I usually call this I called it the poor man's DNAC. I'm calling it
poor man's DNAC.
because the telemetry the information you receive is a replica almost of the telemetry information that goes to DNAC, but I can't show it like they do, of course, but it's the same information.
Okay. So you're just taking the data that's relevant to you. It's the same data that would go to DNA Center. That's what DNAC is for
for telemetry. Yeah, so I looked at what they do and see if I found something, and also made something myself.
Okay.
For example, the sensor data, for example.
Yeah, and I guess we didn't talk about why we would set up our own dashboards, but one of the use case, I guess, is this one. And I had it with a lot of my customers where, you know, they were big enough to have a controller and a few APs, but they were not big enough to go and get DNAC. And they were in that need of getting the monitoring. And then the second use case would be, if you're not happy with what DNAC is giving you in terms of data and how it's laid out, and you're only interested in very specific data, then you can go ahead and create your own dashboard. So if you do like troubleshooting, for instance, you could create your own dashboard with only the data you care about. Or if you're doing, you know, very specific monitoring, then you can, you know, kind of lay the data out the way you want it. It's a little bit more customizable, I guess, to your needs.
Yeah, same thing goes with an NMS that you buy, any brand. Many have a bit. Some of them have weaknesses when it comes to wireless. And some of them are good, but as you said, the having to be able to build something your own that you can have, like your own panels, your own dashboard, your own visualizations, your own colors, that the company colors.
What?
Right? The company,
what?
the exact company color for.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think you're giving Francois a lot of ideas here.
Yeah, I'm gonna brand that.
Well, why don't we look at your your dashboard and show us exactly what you've been working on?
Yeah.
And while you do that, I want to tell the audio listeners we do have this recorded on video. There's a lot of visualizations, so we're going to describe it as much as possible for the audio folks, but we really want to show you what is possible, something that you can do on your own with open source tools, rather than having to, you know, maybe you don't have the funds to purchase something that is expensive, or, you know, you just don't have the funds for that. So I'm pretty excited because this is a project that I have on my plate as well. And I'm going to use you as an example.
Yeah, good. Especially now, since you got your 9136, I'm going to show you something to make it, you'll probably create this today.
and also, like, we're talking about Wi-Fi here and how we can use it to do Wi-Fi monitoring. But in all the tools you talked about, the you know, Grafana and FlexDB and the Telegraph, you said, tools, they can be used to analyze any data you want, right? So if you want to create a dashboard for your IoT stuff at home, you could go ahead and do this. Actually, the first idea I had, or the first dashboard idea I had back in the day, I was doing some testing with different iPerf servers from, you know, and I wanted to kind of visualize the data. And I had the idea of using Grafana to kind of visualize the data of different iPerf tests running at the same time, so I could see, you know, how it would impact the throughput over Wi-Fi. I never came up to it, but that was kind of like my first idea, first use case of using Grafana. So it doesn't have to be necessarily Wi-Fi related. You can open up the possibilities.
Yeah. There you go.
There's one great tool there. It's called the ISP checker. It's you find it on GitHub. A guy that complained about his ISP. That one like runs speed test every 5 minutes. It pings different sites, and you can. I've used that before to create something similar to just validate my ISP.
Yeah.
To see like testing doing speed test in the middle of the night, and then sending a picture on Twitter to the ISP and say I don't get what I'm paid for when I'm sleeping. I have the proof.
Yeah.
So yes, you can do so many things. The only thing is you just need a good idea.
Yeah.
And so the more people that get interested in this and share their dashboards and share their ideas, it will be cool.
The better. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see your ideas, and hopefully it'll create some ideas for us.
Yeah. So for your audio listeners, I'm gonna look into my Grafana, and I can take this.
You will have to share your screen though. We don't see it.
Yeah, I don't share my screen now. Share.
Yeah, it's
See it
coming
now?
up.
Yeah,
Yes.
Now. Okay. So I have a few dashboard I made here. Something just about access, a dashboard just for access points, general info, AP sensors, and the client telemetry. I can look at the telemetry first.
And obviously, all
I got an
all
unexpected
of
error. That's cool. Let's wait a minute.
all of this is web-based. So we're just looking at the browser, and then Kjetil is hosting it somewhere on a machine. We can see the IP and the port. So I'm guessing you can access this from from your computer and from a tablet or from a phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I created one on my phone that I monitored my own phone, and then I made a tap 3 times back on my phone to get up the dashboard that fits my phone, so I can see the MCS and signal quality of my iPhone. So whenever I have problems, I just tap 3 times and it opened up the Grafana dashboard, and I had that dashboard just for my phone. So yes.
That sounds so nerdy, man.
Yeah, I sent it to Keith Parson. I said, I can get the MCS on an iPhone. You can? And I sent it to him.
Yeah, that's impossible. But,
So
but what you're showing here is you're now looking at client details, client statistics, just exactly what you're talking about with your iPhone.
So I picked the top here is some work that Cisco's done, the Intel info that you get. So that was, and I found that was possible to get. So I've been picking up that one.
Okay.
And then you get the software version. Yeah, software version of the device.
There you go.
It's not Windows 10.
So I don't. Maybe the fingerprinting is a bit off, but I think even just having the software version available to you already is useful, because I actually just responded to a ticket yesterday about Windows saying, what is a driver version on that laptop? So here you're already troubleshooting much faster than you typically do. So
this is a great tool that I added. Intel Analytics, I think it said. You see, I've added the time slot here where I know this works. If I look at the last 10 minutes, it's not always that it works. And sometimes I need to disconnect the Wi-Fi and connect back. Sometimes I don't get the information on 6 gigahertz, but when I connect on 5 gigahertz, you get the information. So, but still, to get the software version. And also, if I open up Outlook, wait a couple of seconds, and I suddenly get my Outlook version here also. So it picks up that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So the
what
device
else does
OS,
it pick up that makes you wonder, right?
Yeah. So device OS changes from Windows 10 when it's actually Windows 11, and suddenly I get the Outlook version here instead. Yeah, it's a bit, but still get.
It's oversharing.
Yeah.
But you got
but very cool to get the software version. It's really good to have access to that. I think if I have 1,000 clients here, you have the software versions of every single client, right?
Because then you can also trend statistics even based on the software version.
Yeah, you can create like a little pie graph, for example, to see how many percentage have this version or the other. And then you can add that to see how many have had successful authentication with that driver and how many had an error with an older driver. So it's yeah. So I like to have this, and I can put it in
the toggle
in Grafana. You can put it in like a row here to hide different panels that you make. Yeah. But I like to have the client stats because it's easier to search in these ones. I haven't turned it on now, but in the clients table, This is picked up with SNMP. I can take the last 50 minutes here. So get the open roaming.
So you're running open roaming there.
Yes.
So here you're in the client stats, you're getting the MAC address, the IP address of your wireless clients, and then the protocol supported, which WLAN profiles they're using, which SSID they're connected to, and then if you have the username, right?
Yeah, username.
And then the status.
Yeah.
So this data you said is SNMP, and again, like you said in the beginning, you're using Telegraph
Yeah,
as your data collector, so it's getting both streaming telemetry and SNMP data, and then you're able to graphically display this data, the client stats, in a table.
Yeah. So this client, you can create this client stats also with streaming telemetry. I just found it easier to take a get bulk from the clients table, and then use that to create table. I just feel it's easier to do that with SNMP.
Okay.
So just this one, this panel, the clients table, is created with SNMP.
Okay, so you're actually going in through.
So the BSN mobile station table has a MIB that probably many people are aware of.
Okay. So yeah, that was going to be my question. There's like, how do you know exactly what to pull? I'm assuming you were browsing a lot of documents to figure out what table to pull from, what date, like.
Yeah, usually I take like a MIB browser and I download all the MIBs and a MIB browser, like the different MIB browser that you have to look at them. So for the AirOS wireless, it's very easy to find like BSN mobile stats table. You know that mobile statistics table, so you know what it is, right? Some devices that I try to monitor for firepower for Cisco FTD, for example, and I don't know what anything of that means in the maybe because I don't work so much with firewalls, but I think use that is easy. And for the telemetry part, I use the NetConf Explorer.
Okay.
Okay.
So you have Telegraph collecting this information, it puts it into InfluxDB, the database, and with Grafana you have it knows about the database, but you have to create the queries in order to create the dashboards.
Yeah. For the SNMP part, it's just an SNMP plugin in Telegraph, the data collector that just runs an SNMP get every 10 seconds, for example. But with the telemetry part, it builds almost like a tunnel that just received the information. So you don't have to send SNMP get or SNMP bulk or anything like that. With streaming telemetry, you just get a constant stream of information.
Okay.
So just a client table with that one. And so easy here to just find the clients and copy it, or you have a drop-down list of all the clients that has been connected to my controller.
Okay. So you can look at individual client stats right now. So even with all the graphs we see, the data we see here, like the RSSI and SNR and spatial stream, we're looking at one specific client right now.
Yeah. So if I want to look at this one for one of the iPhones, for example, and just take 60.
Click on a drop down, easily search it. Okay.
3C, and then you have that one.
Okay.
Nice.
And all that data changes. Okay.
Yeah. So this dashboard was started with Jeremy Coho in Cisco. He made a similar one, and then I've just been adding stuff to make it more update and different. So one of the things that I really fond of that I like is this one, the roaming panel.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I can take that a little bit bigger.
Oh, okay.
For those that are familiar with Cisco, that the mobile stats in each individual client, where they see where the roam events in the GUI and the 98000. So I just pull that, but then you get historical data for like several weeks, and get the AP name and channel, roam type, run latency, AP slot ID, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, but you can change that to say I want radio 0 to be 5 gigahertz, for example.
Yeah.
And AP name again, I think reason for that is one of the AP names didn't work before, but now they work. So that's why I pick it up 2 times from 2 different places. And the MCS. The MCS is used with SNMP because there isn't any SNMP, any MCS in the netconf Young models. Haven't talked so much about the netconf Young models, but we can add probably you can add some links to that one.
Yeah,
and also the speed, but this is updated every second. So even if the speed of the client isn't updated every second in the GUI, I still want to receive it every second because then I won't miss anything.
Okay. So that's very interesting. You're getting the speed, that's the variation of data rate and the variation of MCS on some sort of a timeline, right? So you could go back and say 10 minutes ago, or in your case, you have 30 minutes. So you could say like 20 minutes ago, I was using 574 or whatnot. But then what's very interesting, these data makes you want to reverse engineer how the device is working, right? You like, you wonder, why do you have 574 and then you have 12 for 10 minutes?
MCS is a bit slower to pick up. And then, so this is picked up every 10 seconds. This is every second, the speed.
Yeah, you have to, on the bottom, you have the time, timeline. And really this device has just stayed on this single AP. So basically if it roamed to another AP, the top data there would show a different AP if it had roamed.
Okay. And also it's probably the data rate is probably changing if the device is active or not, right? If it's not active, the data rate will probably be to the minimum.
You can look at this machine here, and
1201, man.
Yeah, that's because I'm using an 80 megahertz channel. If I was supposed to use a 160 because then I get 2400. The AP is laying on top of my computer here, and the antennas is like 3 centimeters away from the AP.
Okay. Super close.
So here I get so if like a customer said, I've had issues with a Teams meeting, right? I had issues. I was sitting in a room, I had issues, and then you see it had a stable MCS 11 with 2 special streams for 1 hour stable. Then you know that the wireless wasn't the issue, right?
Yeah, it wasn't
most
an
likely
RF problem.
Could be other things,
not
but
an RF problem.
Could be a user problem.
The user or the client. So I used that many times. I said
that application.
We were 4 people in the meeting room. 2 of us had problems with the meeting, but the others didn't have it.
Yeah.
And then look at the MCS and also look at RRM.
Even retries.
Yeah, and retries. I don't know if I graph this up correctly, but at least I get to see when you get more.
If it's if the user had a problem and the retries were high, then you can say, oh, okay, there was something going on. But because you have all this data that you can correlate with the issue, it's connected to an AP, how long it was connected to, at what MCS rate, what the retries percentage were. You could quickly say, I don't think this is a Wi-Fi issue. This is probably another issue. I mean, if you were graphing and collecting data from other parts of the network, you'd probably be able to even get stuff from routers, switches, and be able to even correlate and troubleshoot even further.
Yeah, I have for the Meraki, I have monitoring the switch ports and for each individual access point and the WAN link to see which one is using up all the bandwidth I have here.
Yeah, your AP
also
RRM data is really neat too on that bottom right.
Yeah, so this looks a little bit. Can make it a little bit bigger, and make it a little bit more real. So what I'm going to do now is see like from 0 to the one of the what is this called? One of the sides here is showing
the axis.
The axis,
0 to 12%, and just to make it a little bit bigger, I think here. There.
So we're adjusting the graph, so we're looking at channelization
so you see
from
that
0.
When it looks very bad when it's like on top here.
When it shows the max, it's showing.
Yeah, max. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have it maxed at like 12%, so the graph made it look like, oh, there's a problem. But now you made the visualization show from 0 to 100% for channel utilization. So now we can see.
More. So I can take, like, if you take a speed test, sometimes that is a bit slow, but I can go to like fast.com and just run.
Yeah, so you're going to try to change the data right now as it picks it up.
I don't have an amazing speed at home, so.
Hey, but you know, that's good enough. Man. It's good enough for Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do it again.
150 megabits per second. Yeah. So you're running fast.com a couple of times, and we're going to see this data get plotted in your graph.
Yeah.
In Grafana.
And
so this will take the channel utilization from the AP, the AP's RRM details.
Yeah, it should. And usually the RM is, I think, is a bit slow when it updates. And if you take like the last 30 minutes here, and then we see, like if you take the last 50 minutes, something happened here, right, with all the traffic, and you see the retries, like the whoop flew up. Yeah. And then you see now we're starting to update a little bit. Yeah. So we see the CCI utilization of 6 gigahertz went to 33%.
6 gigahertz. Okay. We're talking.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So we're doing this recording and you're on Wi-Fi using 6 gigahertz right now.
I'm on Wi-Fi. Yeah, on 6 gigahertz with all the bugs that is there. So yeah.
Okay, here we go.
And the cable goes to the access point that is laying on top of the computer, but it's not to the computer, the cable. Yeah. So
okay, got it.
If I work with wireless, I'm gonna use it.
I like it. I like it.
So one question I had for you, Kjetil, is how far back can you go? Because you have, like, we've been looking at last 30 minutes, but could you go back like last week?
I have 14 days.
14 days, okay.
I just made 14 days because I know DNAC uses 14 days.
Okay.
Sometimes I use 15 days just to say I do 15 days. But you can do as long as you want.
Yeah, just whatever resources you have.
Yeah, so in InfluxDB, you can extend that. You can create I want a 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks. Yeah, so I can go. So when I take the last 7 days, for example, for this computer, now it will see it will be too much to show here, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So then I can see what happened at exactly this point in time, and then
I like this data. Yeah, because now in the roaming panel, we see different APs, which is
yeah, here we can extend that a little bit, the roaming panel, and then we have here from AP1 to AP2, and run latency. So 74 milliseconds.
Still on 6 gigahertz.
Yeah, so that is a first, because I usually never see it roams from 6 to 6. I always see it roams from 6 to 5. And when it does that, if I have a meeting, you have 1 second where the meeting just stops.
Oh,
jumping from 6 to 5 has never been any good.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see in the real world if jumping between bands like that will cause issues.
So then we have this. Then we can see here what happened, right? They can see exactly.
Yeah, what's the threshold in which that device starts to roam?
Yeah,
which is around
right here, right? So minus 79 something happened.
Oh, a little bit sooner than that.
Yeah.
Like around the 70s, next 70s.
Yeah.
Which is interesting for us as we try to determine thresholds for certain devices. I know Apple's very good at documenting them, but I'd be curious to validate that data and say, all right, does it really roam, have that roaming threshold? And this is a way to really graph this data and validate, troubleshoot. Very useful.
Yeah. And also with this, you can also use in the RM part, you can just look at the individual parts, right?
Oh, okay.
Press on the...
So you can clean up the graph and only select data that's relevant for what you're trying to do.
So many use cases where I have that, where people said I had some issues with the wireless, and then I can see, okay, your quality was, okay, this is not good, but it was a minus 72. And they think is something wrong with the AP, and then you can get like a turn of all this. You can see how many clients were connected. It was one on this type, 1 6 GHz client connected, 2 5 GHz clients connected, and there's no noise here. There's no utilization on the access point, and that doesn't report anything. So the environment is clean, right?
Yeah.
So get all this information, and then you can get it all at the same time here, right?
So you can just say it's not likely to be a Wi-Fi issue when that occurred.
Also have a different roaming panel here just to make it bigger. And
okay.
Here. Yeah.
So you're just playing around with the data and how you want to visualize it, what makes sense for you.
Yeah. So maybe this doesn't make sense for many people, right? They want to have different panels and other places or something. But now I'm sharing this on an iPad. It gets like a little bit shrunk, but I have a 34-inch widescreen here. So yeah.
Then it's knock. Yeah,
it's better.
The home knock with your 9800 controller and 6 GHz. I'm jealous.
Yeah. Wow, this is the phone. You see the here, and this has been roaming quite more times, right?
Okay.
Do you wanna show us maybe another dashboard, maybe one you have for troubleshooting, or?
Yeah, I can show different things. So this is just the client details and client statistics. And I also have, I can just discard this, a global overview.
Okay.
This is just, it's not so many interesting things here, right? But if you have a customer with a lot of information, so this panel is an old AirOS free panel that somebody made many years ago. And then I just fixed, so you can see how many clients are connected to each individual VLAN profile and all the clients, and get a table of all the access points and an average of the last 5 minutes, how much utilization the AP reports. And I have a customer, I think, with 600-700 access points. Sorry. And I need some water.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you talk a bit?
Yeah, we'll take it from here.
Yeah.
The data that is displayed right now is very similar to what you would see if you logged into a controller, where it has a high-level overview of information showing all your access points, showing how many clients are connected to a specific SSID or WLAN profile, as we call it on a Cisco controller, and then even a summary of what's on each access point, like the 2.4 utilization, 5 and 6 GHz utilization, and how many clients are connected to that AP.
Yeah. So here, Jesus. So here you don't have so many different things happening, right? I just have 2 access points.
Yeah.
But then I at least get an average of which access point shows me the most utilization. And I have a customer that I mentioned. I can see, for example, that we have 90% utilization on 2.4 gigahertz, and 75 gigahertz clients. So then you can have a graph to see when people come to the office, connected to 5 gigahertz, they have Bluetooth headphones, they have Bluetooth things on them, and then you see the utilization 2.4 goes from 30% to 90 and just stays on 90 the whole time.
Wow.
When,
oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a call center basically with all those.
Oh, that's a school. So you see when students come into the classroom, you see the 2.4 just flies up, but nobody's using it.
The AirPods. Good. It's for the AirPods.
Yeah, all the AirPods. But that's cool to visualize that. Visualize to see that, because if one student accidentally jumped on 2.4, they will have a bad experience, right? And then you have all the data.
Yeah, you can be proactive about it by graphing it here. You can even then go into detail for that AP, right? Like you might show all the access points, but you could create another dashboard or a graph just for that individual AP.
Yeah, that's the next one. We can do that. It's not so much here because,
Yeah,
this was built on areas.
I'd be surprised if you're running hundreds of access points in your home.
Yeah, 2 clients
with thousands of clients.
So the other one is let's see, the access points for each individual access point.
Okay, so we're looking at your AP1 details.
Yeah, so then I can take AP2, and then we have visualization from there. And then also just the 6 gigahertz statistics, a little bit more cleaner, and also channel changes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so channel width, channel, and TX power, because then I can see if there were any sudden changes in channels or TX power, anything happened from the access points. Then get a historical here. So if I go long back, I think 7 days or something. Maybe not this one. Maybe the other access point. Okay.
Oh, they've been pretty stable.
Now they're both on the same channel because I've been troubleshooting something, and now it stands on auto, but it doesn't want to change. So I need to select it manually. But there's a good thing to have to troubleshoot that, to have that information, right?
Yeah.
For the client, like they have the client statistic, you see the client roam, you know the MCS, you know how many clients were connected to the access point, you know the MCS value, and then you know if the AP changed channels, and you have monitoring of the controller to see the CPU and see how many clients were connected, so you can start to create a picture here if it was the client or something other in the environment.
Yeah, I mean, this shows kind of that troubleshooting methodology that you have, where you're starting off at the client device first, looking at client statistics. You're looking at then RF. You can dive then into the AP and see the different statistics for the channel that those devices are on, and then be able to go, all right, it's been using the same channel. It's like, 80 megahertz channel width at transmit power 1. But the channel utilization isn't very high. So you're able to troubleshoot very quickly with just this dashboard that you've created on your own. So it's a lot more than what most people have when they have Cisco controllers, and they might, because you would have to go into the CLI to try to grab all this data, but it's all just raw data that you're looking at.
Yeah, and that takes time, right? And you have like Cisco Prime, then you have all this information there, but it's different windows. You need to go there to find this information. You need to go there to find this information. I just want the things I usually look at to find out if there was a client issue. That's why I made it look like this, right?
Okay.
And here you see it has changed power from 8 to 4. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see.
Is it the index?
Very quiet because it's turned off.
I was asking you, is that the Cisco index for the power, or is that the DBM value?
Cisco.
Okay.
Because it's different for all APs, right? So TX power 1 on 6 gigahertz is like, so it's different on each access point and radio. So this is Cisco power value.
Are you tracking the utilization of the Ethernet cable? Do we need 1 gig on the 6 gigahertz AP?
Well, that also depends. When I have this, if I change, I don't want to do it now on the live Zoom call, but if I change to 160, you get like a stable 2401 right? But so
you can get pretty close, Francois.
Yeah, you're gonna go over 1 gig. You need multi-gig.
Yeah.
So if you have a 160
test,
megahertz channel and you take constant speed test and the other one on 5 gigahertz and 80 megahertz channel and a guy on 2.4, he will probably go over 1 gig. That has been a long discussion on Twitter a couple of times now. You don't need gig.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll see with real world deployments if people will deploy 160 megahertz wide channels, and then even if those devices get the high MCS rate. We'll see.
Well, in Europe, I don't know, because they only have Uni 5, which is it's same size as 5 gigahertz today, right? So I don't know if 160 is viable.
When I used that to 160 on each end of the 480 megahertz we have, and I put the APs next to each other. One of the access point reports 30% utilization. Like, and sideband interference, okay, but not so wide, maybe, I don't know, because I don't have spectrum, but it's so I had my own monitoring just for
6
that use
gigahertz.
case.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 gigahertz for something. I don't know where it is, but let's see if I have.
How many dashboards do you have? That's a question.
There's not so many on this one.
You're getting lost in your dashboards.
EVC, dial in,
Oh, yeah, you got a
AP
6
sensor
gigahertz
generally.
CCA.
There it is, 6 gigahertz CCA. This one. So now the drop down here has failed, but you don't see anything here for listeners. But I had this one open, the picture of the Etsy to see all the channels, and now of course this doesn't work, so you don't have to look at this for so long. But it just reported the same thing as my other dashboards and the history of the channel changes to see. So I moved the access point closer and from each other, but I had like a 160 here and a 160 there. But if the access point was next to each other, it reported like 30% on one of them.
Oh, okay.
And okay, so sideband interference for this wide, I don't know. That's a bit wide. I don't know. We need spectrum, right, to see it.
Yeah, it takes up everything. Yeah.
It's like 1/3, 160 megahertz wide channel will be 1/3 of the Uni5 band.
Yeah, basically. So hopefully you're under 4 APs. I mean, this is good information. Like I'm gonna try this myself and see what I can graph. I have 9,800 controllers at my workplace, and we're trying to think about how we want to graph certain data like AP uptime, and then get further into it with client details. And you've given me a lot of different ideas to see what's possible, and I think that's just what I'm going to run with and try this on my own.
But also, since you have the 9136, we need to show one thing: the AP sensor.
Okay.
For those who don't know it, the AP, the 9136 has temperature sensors.
Yeah.
So
you're gonna have to convert all of this in Fahrenheit for a while. I'm afraid.
It looks awfully cold.
You know something?
Celsius.
Real well. This information is what you get from the telemetry part. You get it in Celsius. So that means you're wrong.
So it means I'm gonna have to convert it then with the
in Grafana.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to convert the data.
So I think we can do that, like the temperature here. So maybe we have a field name that is named temp. This is temp, and then
at the top, I saw it. You had it a Celsius option.
And then override the property, and then just unit. And then
there you go. Not that hard.
But is it correct? No.
No,
you need to do some calculations.
Yeah, you have to do the math to convert the number. Yeah,
but you can do it here. You can do math, right?
Yeah.
Math, and then you can write.
Yeah, write out the
Yeah, and then you choose this and choose Fahrenheit.
Yeah. That option
now is really cold.
Yeah. Now
it's really cold.
For sure, that's cold. Yeah, the value you were changing on the right just changes the C to an F. That's all it does.
Yeah, but you can change this now with Celsius. You can I had an override for each individual part here, right? So here I changed the colors for this graph here. Yeah, and then had a field property. You can get unit, minimum, maximum, decimals. You can change how it should look, and then you can change the Fahrenheit and add some math into it, and then you have like your way. So sorry for this, Rowan. Sorry for all the American watch this.
I'll write something up on how to change it. It's okay.
It looks really good. I like
but
those,
what is the math for Celsius to Fahrenheit? If you have it available,
I don't have that available.
Easy to add, very easy to add.
Yeah, it's okay. But this is good information because in our episode before this one, we had Jim Floric on talk about the sensor on the 9136. So it's nice to see that you're actually able to see that data and graph it?
Yeah, probably he talked maybe about how to use it in DNA spaces and DNAC and something.
Oh, he just mentioned that it was there, that it has a sensor.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So this is what you get. So this is also, I picked this up from outside, the weather outside.
How do you get that?
Open weather map.
Yeah, this.
And
This
you
is from my
know the
hometown.
location of where the AP is?
No, this is just this is in my hometown in Asker in Norway. So
oh, okay, you hard code the location. Okay.
Yeah. And the air quality.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So a quick thing about this, it has an air quality sensor. So I pick up ethanol alcohol concentration, a TVOC sensor, air
we had
quality.
a blog post about this.
Yeah. Yeah. The fart blog.
The fart blog.
And now I also added the clients connector, right? So I can see if you take a quick here, the last 3 hours, then I can see what happened here. And I can see how many clients were connected to next one, which client, who was there, what the signal strength was.
Yeah.
So then I know what person, who farted, when, and where it was, everything. So here it's because I moved the access point to my office.
Oh, okay.
And then here I open up the window.
Oh, okay. That's impressive.
And then here I closed the window before we started the webinar thing. So you see the time here at 4.
Interesting, yeah.
And then
I thought that was. Okay, I thought that's just when somebody farted in the room.
No, if you fart this one, it's a 0.6. If you fart, it goes to a 4.0.
Oh wow!
Depends on the fart. Sorry, listeners.
Sorry, listeners. Depends what you had for breakfast. Sorry. Well, all right. I guess it's time to close out the episode.
Yeah, perfect way to close this, right?
Yeah,
perfect way to end the show.
Sorry for all my coughing. Suddenly I got something in here, so I should have looked at this dashboard first to see why I'm experiencing.
All right. So for everyone that is watching and listening, Kjetil, where should they go to get more information, get started, and to learn how to do this on their own? To
build the Grafana installation without Dockers, I recommend Dave Benham's blog, Wi-Fi reference. I also created a course with Dockers and how to build the dashboard, the client dashboard that I showed earlier. And those two are good. And I also have a blog where I show this sensor data and also how you can pull the information with NetConf Explorer. So
okay. And where is that course that you created? Where is that located?
Wi-Fi training.
Okay. So we'll add links in the show notes in order so you guys can find this. But I think those are 3 great resources to get started. I think that's enough to just play around with your lab equipment or even production. Just grabbing data, getting streaming telemetry and SNMP. So I think it's a good start. So I'll definitely check out the course. I didn't know that was there, and I think I need to take it so I can finish up my project for this year.
Yeah, it's really fun to play around with. So every time I get a new update for the controller, I just open NetConf Explorer to see is it something new here that I can graph up. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Kjetil, thank you for joining us on this episode, showing us what you've been working on and the use cases that's possible. I think it's generated a lot of ideas for anyone who's listened to this episode or watched it. If you're listening and you want to see what was being shown on screen, head over to our YouTube channel. We'll have that video posted for you guys. And again, Kjetil, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kjetil.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. And well, you sound like an influencer, a real YouTube guy now. It's good.
I can't have poor here. You need to have fine.
There you go. Okay,
fine.
awesome.
All right, thank you guys.
See you guys. Cheers.
Okay, bye.